dominant क्या कंप्यूटर का क्वेश्चन 6 लिखा दिया ना इसने कंप्यूटर असाइनमेंट 5 प्रोग्राम कॉलेज के बाद कॉलेज में एक चुपन 23 अरे वो कॉलेज से लिख दिया तुमने ये देखो वो भी कौन सा है अरे अभी सब भाई और
Chalo. Are we done with this chapter? No. What are you doing? We have completed with the first one, that is law of dominance. No? We have completed with this. आज तुम्हारी फ्रेंड कहाँ गई? नहीं आई, एब्सेंट है। आप प्रशंसा बहुत ठंडी है ना? हाँ, बहुत ठंडी है। स्कूल में कौन सा चैप्टर चल रहा है? How are you today? I'm good. Last week you were absent, no?
Last two structure
And which are the chapters they have finished?
absorption by rules.
Absorption by rules and transpiration over.
Yes.
And now they are doing structure of chromosomes.
No, they are just revising for the exams.
कब exams? 4th July. Question क्या है?
Absorption and transpiration.
तो structure of chromosome की revise कर रहे हैं?
These are revising absorption and transpiration.
उधर का भी एग्जाम
38
June. अच्छा 30 June for dual also for all two.
Yeah.
अच्छा.
Yes.
Okay.
But the chapters are different. Structure of chromosome and
Chapters structure of chromosomes and
genetics.
genetics. अच्छा. So let us study today. We had already completed with law of dominance. Next we are going to learn law of segregation. Law of segregation. Law of segregation is also known as purity of gametes. Law of segregation is also known as purity of gametes. What is this concept? Let us see. Law of segregation. Now the other day I had roughly explained to you that what was the cross? Mendel selected a tall plant, a tall pure breed tall plant with a pure breed dwarf plant, and he tries breeding them. When he bred them, what type of a plant he observed in the first generation? All plants were tall. But he was more or less, in his initial years, he was very much confused that why is it happening that none of the plants are expressing the other trait, that is dwarfness. So he keeps on repeating, and then he gets to see that every time whenever two contrasting traits are bred, only one trait in the first generation is expressed. So later, this concept was established as a law known as the law of dominance, where it was later understood that when two contrasting traits are bred together, the trait which expresses is a dominant trait, and the trait which remains suppressed is a recessive trait. But he was still having the query that why is it happening that when two traits are crossed, only one expresses? What about the other trait? Then what did he want to do? He took plants of the first generation and then again started breeding them. And when done, he observed that yes, in the second generation, some plants were expressing the other trait also, the other contrasting trait also. So from there, he now understood the concept, that is, whenever we are talking about expression of a trait, there are certain traits which expresses maximally. That means they may also express in the presence of a contrasting trait, and there are certain traits which will never express in the presence of a contrasting trait. Let us learn how to write and what are the basic concepts. So again, I start this way, parent plants. I start this way, parent plants. What were the parent plants? So now again I am starting from the first generation, remember, the first generation. Pure tall, pure dwarf, from there. So first generation plants were what? Pure tall plants. They were pure tall plants. How do we write down the genotype of pure tall? This way. Crossed with pure dwarf plants. Crossed with pure dwarf plants. How do you write them? Genotype, you write this way. What about their gametes? What about their gametes? Their gametes would be, how many type of gametes will this type of plant give rise to? This type of plant will give rise to only one type of gamete. How many type of gamete will this type of plant give rise to? Only one type of gamete. So already we saw this answer. Now we try to understand F1 generation plants. What about the F1 generation plants? To get the F1 generation plants, we understand that there should be a process of fertilization happening. There should be a process of fertilization happening. Then if that is so, that these new plants, in one of their pair of chromosome, this will be the pair of allele. So it is something like, I'm talking about that in the first generation, all plants are tall plants. But is it the same type of tall plants like this? No, because here it was understood that generation after generation, whenever these type of plants were bred, every time all plants are tall. But this type of plants, whenever they are bred, two plants of the same type whenever they are bred. No, all plants are not tall. Some are tall, some are dwarf. Then what is the definition of the word pure tall? When the same trait is expressed generation after generation, the type of generations are known as pure generations and the plants are known as pure plants. I give you the difference again. I talk about these plants. I take two plants of this type, I breed. Will I ever get a dwarf plant? Not possible. In the first generation, I get pure tall plants. I again take two plants of the second generation and again I breed. In the third generation also, I get all tall plants. It is something like I am taking these type of plants. So what do I get in the first generation? All tall, no? Again I breed. यही same generation के दो plant लेके again I have to breed. What do I get in the third generation? Again the same, no? Again I take two plants. So what is happening? Generation after generation, I'm only and only and only going to get tall plants. Once that is done, yes, they did it that way. And once they are convinced that these plants, you keep on crossing them generation after generation, you are always going to get just tall plants. So such type of generations will be known as pure generations. That means these plants, in their pair of chromosome, the alleles are homozygous or heterozygous? Homozygous. No concept of heterozygous alleles. But if I take one plant is this way or something like this, when I take this plant, then obviously I'm going to get some plants this type, no? Obviously I'm going to get some plants this type also. Then what do I get is, and this is not only the end, I will get, if I talk about this, I will get some plants this way, I will get some plants this way, and I will get some plants this way. So roughly I am saying, I will get some plants tall and I will get some plants dwarf. By looking at a plant, of course, we cannot understand it is this type or this type. No, we just say that it is tall. So if you understand this, then next we try coming across this, that if I talk about a pure tall bred with a pure dwarf plant, if a breeding is happening this way, then what type of plants you must have got in the first generation? All tall plants. But are they the same type like the previous generation? No. Actually, we will say that these are hybrid tall plants. Actually, we should say that these are hybrid tall plants. Hybrid tall. Because it is very much sure that these plants may look tall, but they must be having the other parent's allele. The other parent's allele also should be there. Must be there. Then what did he do? In the next generation, now he took plants of the same generation. Two plants of the same generation. And what will be the phenotype? This is also hybrid tall, no? This is also hybrid tall. Now let us again go forward. What will be the gametes of these plants now? How many types of gametes will these plants give rise to? Two types, no? This is a pair of chromosome which will split up. One cell will get capital T, the other cell will get small t. That's the same basic concept of cell division. So I'm writing capital T and I'm writing small t. The same is this side, capital T and small t. Now we talk about, what about the next generation? F2 generation is known. Now to understand F2 generation, first of all, I'll show you the crisscross method. Then we will do the Punnett square method. So पहले crisscross method करेंगे. I will number this 1. This is only for your understanding, ना? Exam में 1, 2, 3, 4 नहीं लिखना है. 1, 2, 3, 4. So try understanding what I am doing here. 1 and 3. 1 and 2. Some students are doing 1 and 2 को नहीं कर सकते because these are gametes of the same parent. 1 and 3. So 1 and 3 करेंगे. Then what should the genotype be? This one. Now I'll do 1 and 4. 1 and 4 करेंगे, then what should the genotype be? Capital T and small t. Then 2 and 3. take one gamete of one parent, another gamete of the other parent. हो गया 1 and 3, 1 and 4. That's done. Now 2 and 3, 2 and 4. So that's the simple rule. So 2 and 3 करेंगे, then what should I write? Capital T and small t. Can I write T and small t? This is not the correct way of writing. हमेशा dominant पहले लिखा जाता है, then you are supposed to write on the recessive form. 2 and 4. When 2 and 4, then what should I write? Small t and small t. So what did I write? The way of writing letters like this. What does this indicate? Capital T and capital T, meaning I'm actually talking about a pair of chromosomes of these plants, जहाँ पे arrangement of alleles are like this. So अभी हर बार तो we will not draw this chromosome, so we will just write all the letters. So now the way of representing the letters, what is this? What are we trying to represent by writing a pair of letters? What is this called? What is this called?
Genotype.
Genotype. Genotype is always expressed with the help of letters or numbers, I already told you. So now that we are writing pair of letters, pair of letters, pair of letters, what are we trying to express? Genotype of the plants. So abhi, if this is the genotype, then let us write down the phenotype. So what will the phenotype be? Keep telling me. What will the phenotype? What should I write here? Tall. Tall plants. These are tall plants. What about this?
Tall plants.
These are also tall plants. What about the third?
Tall plants.
Tall plants. What about the fourth? Dwarf plants. So now, in this case, we are just taking out of 4 plants. Out of 4 plants, how many plants are tall? 3. By looking at the plant, can we understand that whether this is heterozygous or homozygous? No. The same concept is even for human, remember. Okay? By looking at a plant, we cannot understand which one is homozygous, which one is heterozygous. So this tall and dwarfness that we wrote, what is this? What is this?
Genotype.
Phenotype.
Phenotype.
This is genotype, this is phenotype. This is genotype, this is phenotype. So when you write down this cross, genotype and phenotype हमेशा साथ-साथ लिखना है. Now we will write down the phenotypic ratio. Phenotypic ratio is what? Out of 4, how many are tall? How many are dwarf? So out of 4, how many are tall? 3. How many are dwarf? 1. So 3:1 is the phenotypic ratio. How many types of genotype you get to see here?
3.
3 types of genotype, and they are in what proportion? 1:2:1. So that is why we are writing down the genotypic ratio is 1:2:1. So here we are writing down the genotypic ratio 1:2:1, and this is respective for a monohybrid cross. Now ये जो ratio हमने लिखा है, this is applicable for a monohybrid cross. What is a monohybrid cross now? Monohybrid crosses are such type of crosses where we are trying to understand the inheritance of only one character, one trait. We are trying to understand the inheritance of only one character. Now, which is the character we are trying to study here? Height. And which are the traits? Tall and dwarf. So, tallness and dwarfness are the traits. And ये दो trait कौन सा character का trait है? Height का. So, we are studying only one character. So, what is a monohybrid cross? The crosses or breeding between plants which expresses, or crosses which expresses the inheritance of only one character at a time. One trait नहीं लिखना है, one character at a time. So we may study the color of the eye in human generation. So whenever we are studying the color of the eye, whenever we are studying the texture of the hair, whenever we are studying the skin color, Whenever we are studying the texture of the shape of the nose, whenever we are studying only one character in 3-4 generations, even in human, that is also a monohybrid cross. Now let us come to the concept of the law, the statement of the law. What is the statement of the law? For this statement of the law, we are trying to write down the statement of the law of segregation. What is this statement? The statement of the law again depends on this generation. The statement of the law is based on F1 generation. Now the statement of the law goes like this. Out of a pair of contrasting traits in the F1, or the two contrasting traits in the F1, never blend or mix, but remain in two distinct chromosomes and separate during gamete formation. In a F1 hybrid, so what are we saying? This is the statement of the law. In a F1 hybrid, this is the F1 hybrid. So in a F1 hybrid, I already showed you, this is a pair of chromosome to understand. यहाँ पे एक capital T है, यहाँ पे दूसरा allele है. So in a F1 hybrid, the two contrasting alleles for a gene are in two respective chromosomes. Do they ever come together? No. Do they ever mix together? No. How do we understand? If they would have mixed or come together, then coming of these alleles separately and getting this type of plants was not possible. ये दो allele, do they ever come together to form a new combination? कभी भी नहीं. They are distinctly located in two different chromosomes. They are distinctly located in two different chromosomes. They are not coming together to form a new combination. How are we sure about it? We are sure about it क्योंकि दो तरह के gametes बनते होंगे, then only we are getting this type of a plant, because this type of a plant will be possible only when in both the chromosomes the same recessive allele is there. ये वाले जो plant है, is it ever possible that for a dwarf plant you get a genotype this way? कभी भी नहीं. To get a dwarf plant, both the alleles should be this way. तो both the allele ऐसे होने के लिए, in this plants, the small t or the allele responsible for dwarfness must not have ever met with or must not have ever blended or mixed with the allele for tallness. It must have been separately placed in a separate chromosome. Separately placed in a separate chromosome, then only some cells got this. Then only in the process of fertilization, this cell and this cell, when they came together, you got this. Am I clear? Sure? Clear? Anybody has a doubt in this? So what I'm saying is that whenever we are talking about a concept of segregation, listen to the statement. In the F1 hybrid, the two contrasting alleles or the two contrasting traits, either you write in the form of an allele or you write in the form of a trait. Both ways you can write. So let me say in both the way, in the F1 hybrid, the two contrasting alleles are present in two distinct chromosomes. They never mix or blend and segregate during gamete formation. What is the proof that they segregate? The proof is this. अगर segregate नहीं होता, and say suppose ये दोनों mix होके some new type of a combination हो जाता, and only one type of a allele could have been there, something like this, and ये नहीं होता, and ये नहीं होता, then was it possible that we get this? Tall plant शायद फिर भी मिल जाता, but this type of plant we would never got. That would have never been possible. Are I समझ में? So this is what we are trying always to understand, that no, the concept is never this way. this and this remained in two distinct chromosomes and they got separated during the time of cell division and gamete formation. So hence we get this and this separate. So that is what we write on the statement. First of all, we will write how we can do it again in the form of a Punnett square. So or meaning still here it is exactly the same. इसके बाद ये जो process है, we can write it alternatively. How we will write? We make a Punnett square now, and then first of all we will have to write down the gametes. Let us write down the gametes of one parent. Let us write down the gametes of the next parent. Always we write this indicates female parent, this indicates male parent. 1 and 3, same like this. 1 and 3. So I number them. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now 1 and 3. What do I write? This one. 1 and 4. What do I write? This. 2 and 3. What do I write? Same, no? And 2 and 4. This one. What are their phenotypes? Tall. What is it? Phenotype here? Tall. What about this? Tall. What about this? Tall. Is the phenotypic ratio, genotypic ratio the same like prior, like before? हाँ कि ना?
Yes.
इसका phenotypic and genotypic ratio same रहेगा? हाँ. It's just a different way of representing. Concept वही है. Different way of putting it, no? So this is what is known as Punnett square, and this is what is the crisscross method. फटाफट complete करो. Then I give you one question. Let me see if you have understood. Then we move on to the concept of dihybrid cross. Done? Understood? I'll give you one question. Complete this fast. ऐसे नहीं लिखना है. Show when you have written down that. Neat presentation, 10th standard student. Presentation should be very, very smart. The way you write, the teacher should be very impressed by the way you write. अगर गलत भी है तो भी आधा मार्क तो मिल जाएगा. हाँ? है ना? बहुत खुश हो गई करना. चलिए ऐसे ही कर जाते हैं तो मुफ्त में मिलेगा. That is true, you know. Whenever we are correcting the papers, a student may have written very clumsily, but सारी चीज सही है. We have a student here. कौन तुम लोग साधु वासवानी के कौन है? हाँ, तुम्हारे स्कूल का एक लड़का था. He was very intelligent, but उसका answer script, correcting his answer script was a headache. So the way he used to write, so painful for the eyes and such a shock for the heart. So correcting his paper was something like finish it off. It was, truly speaking, it was just like that. Just finish off, giving here one, giving there half, giving there one. Maybe he deserved much more, quite a number of times. So that should not happen. Whoever is correcting your paper now in the boards should love to see your answer, should love to read your answers. So presentation should be very neat, very good. You love to keep yourself beautiful and neat, no, every time. So your notebooks also, your answer script also should be very much well presented. Spelling mistakes बिल्कुल भी नहीं होना चाहिए. Once you are done with this, first of all, you will write down the statement of the law. If you are done with this, first you write down the statement of the law. Now, here, when you start doing this, first of all, you will have to decide out of this, which is dominant, which is recessive. I gave you, 7 pairs of contrasting traits. वो decide करना पड़ेगा. That you have to be confirmed. Once you are confirmed, dominant जो trait है, for that you have to select a suitable letter. तो यहाँ पे डोमिनेंट कौन सा है राधिका? पहले मैंने लिखा इसीलिए जो कंफ्यूज है. पर्पल इज डोमिनेंट, वो 7 pairs of contrasting traits याद रखना है. पर्पल डोमिनेंट है, so we will always select a letter suitable to the dominant phenotype. So what is the letter that we can choose? Capital P. And white is the recessive trait. So recessive trait को अब हम कैसे express करेंगे? Small p. We will not take W. Small p. So capital P हो गया. Purple and white हो गया. Small p. You will do this exactly same like that. I am going to check your notebook. Exactly same. वहाँ पे खाली letter change होगा. Steps वही same रहेगा. Are you understanding?
F2 generation. We can directly do the
anyone you can do. I have not mentioned in the question कि कौन से method से करना है. If it is not mentioned in the question, you can do any of the method. Some students do both the method, thinking that the teacher will give extra 1 mark. That's a waste of time. You know everything very nicely. That's very good. But वो समझाने के लिए don't waste your time. Okay? For 1 mark answer, the student will write so much. So sorry, can't give him extra marks. No for that. So that's a waste of time. जितना पूछा गया है उतना ही लिखना है. चलो, not more than 5 minutes I'm going to give you. After that I'm going to call one of you. Will have to show me there on the board. UT test, what is the last chapter you have test on?
absorption.
हो गया है ना absorption का टेस्ट? मार्क्स आ गए? Last Sunday था टेस्ट? Last to last Sunday. How much you all got? Absorption? 20 मार्क का टेस्ट था 15 नंबर कितने लोगों को मिला 40 ओके गुड तुमको क्या होगा तुमने टेस्ट नहीं दिया क्यों आउट ऑफ टाउन लाइक अदर लाइक दिस बॉय तो सारा साल शादी और एंगेजमेंट में चले जाओगे तो कौन लिखेगा तुमको क्या हो गया था मतलब में
Lala gave the test on this Sunday.
last Sunday you gave
Yes.
क्या हुआ
I'm going to write question.
नहीं क्वेश्चन लिखो बट राइट एन आंसर start the cross and keep answering one by one Just 5 minutes. After that, I'm going to call somebody on the board. फटाफट करो. Steps exactly same जो मैंने अभी दिया है, exactly the same way you are supposed to write. Presentation very neat. Now, those of you are making this Punnett square again. Those of you are making this Punnett square. I saw there. I forgot to mention. Those of you are making this Punnett square. This is 2 lines of your rule book. 2 lines. आया समझ में? छोटा माइक्रोस्कोपिक बॉक्स बनाना मार्क हो जाने वाला है. छोटा नहीं. And now not too big page full भी नहीं. When you write, everything should be in a proper way. 2 lines. 2 lines इसीलिए क्योंकि 1 line में तो genotype आएगा. एक में genotype लिखोगे, दूसरे में phenotype लिखोगे. Like so your presentation should be neat. Neat. यहाँ पे cross. Gametes. Did I write the gametes this way? सामने बैठ के दिखाई नहीं देता तुमको. वो भी चश्मा पहन लिया 4 राउंड है. देखो. Gametes कैसे दिखा? How did I write down the gametes? You are getting mistaken. Purple flowers ये है genotype ये इसके बाद इस लाइन में आएगा देखो what I wrote या तो तुम ऊपर में phenotype लिखो नीचे genotype तो अभी तुमने क्या किया तुमने you had written down the phenotype first so what you can do is नीचे पहले ये genotype लिखना है उसके next line में आएगा gametes did you understand so what is the first line this is the first line इसको तुम रिवर्स भी कर तुम इसको भी पहले लिख सकते हो इसको बाद में लिख सकते हो एनी ऑफ दिस हां सो देयर इज नो हार्ड एंड फास्ट रूल कि ऐसा पहले फेनोटाइप ही लिखना है उसके बाद जीनोटाइप बट जनरली वी राइट दिस वे फर्स्ट फेनोटाइप देन जीनोटाइप देन गैमेट्स then this not to show this is just for your understanding I know this step then phenotype again then this method to show आया समझ में तन्मय आया समझ में इतना फास्ट क्यों लिखते हो तुम आराम से लिखो नीटली लिखो if your preparation is good finishing paper in the boards is not a problem at all because most of the questions in fact almost all the questions is just 1 mark question full 80 mark paper actually 1 मार्क क्वेश्चन ही है. So you are not writing any 5 mark, typically a 5 mark or 10 mark answer like the state board or CBSE, remember. तो खाली तुम्हारा preparation पूरा full, मतलब well prepared you should be. Your preparation should be very good. Then you know all the concepts. So एक की बात. It's not that I know it and I could not write because of shortage of time. ये ICSE में कभी नहीं होता है. Unlike CBSE and state board where you can say that मुझे सारा चीज आता था, सब answers मुझे आते थे, but because of time I could not finish my paper because you are not writing any descriptive answers for 5-10 marks. So there is no reason why you should hurry and haste and keep your presentation dirty. Fast, make it fast. Now make it smaller also, yeah. Any of the method, दोनों नहीं करना है. Either you show crisscross or you show parallel, whichever you feel is convenient. But if it is in the question mentioned, then you have to write. Gametes को circle करो. हाइब्रिड क्या है? हाइब्रिड मैंने वहां पे क्या लिखा? हाइब्रिड तो. सो नाउ हाउ विल यू राइट हाइब्रिड? पर्पल लिखोगे नीचे. हाइब्रिड और पर्पल ये नहीं. इसका फिनोटाइप क्या है? इसका फिनोटाइप, व्हाट इज द फिनोटाइप ऑफ दिस प्लांट? हाँ तो लिखो.
And the color is green.
Huh?
The color is green. And the
color is
green. And the white and purple is
no, the character. Character is color of flower is the character. And traits क्या है? White and purple. तो यहाँ पे what is the mistake you did? हाँ. इतना क्यों पीछे साइड में आ गए हो? Your entire thing should more or less come in the middle of the page, ठीक है? So अभी parent class, ठीक है? You have written on the genotype, you have written on the phenotype, दोनों. एक small w होना चाहिए. W will be small w, हाँ recessive है. W will be small w. I'm sorry. W क्यों लिखा उसने? Small p होगा ना? I told you no that. W you will not take. You will take small p. You will take small p. Done. So you are taking one type of gamete. Small p this is. Recessive है ना? White is recessive. So you have to select a small letter. Small p meaning not to make that letter small. You have to write down the lower case. Small p कैसे लिखते हैं? अरे अब ABCD भी सिखाऊं क्या तुमको? Small p कैसे लिखते हैं? तो कैपिटल p तुम कैसे लिखोगे? No, the two letters you have to differentiate. When you are writing, remember, students remember here, when you are writing capital P, small p you will not write this way. ऐसा नहीं है. Small capital P ऐसा लिखा तो small p you will differentiate. Handwriting practice ही किया था ना, इसलिए समझ में आया. हाँ, lower case letter practice नहीं किया होगा. Capital letter, lower case. This is the lower case, no? तो ऐसा लिखना है. Whenever you are writing dominant and recessive, ये याद रखना है. It is not that axial and terminal. Axial मैंने ये लिखा और terminal क्या मैं ऐसे लिखूं? ऐसे लिखूं? टीचर विल गिव रॉन्ग। एक्सियल ऐसे लिखा तो टर्मिनल ये लिखना है, इन्फ्लेटेड ये लिखा तो कॉन्स्ट्रिक्टेड कैसे लिखूं? ऐसे लिखूं? सब कैसे लिखूं? लोअर केस लेटर कैसे लिखते हैं आई का? दिस वन। आया समझ में? हाँ देखो 10th स्टैंडर्ड के बच्चों को अभी लेटर सिखाना पड़ेगा। हो गया? डन? Now the person whom I am going to call on the board, ये पूरा फॉर्मेट ऐसे ही रखोगे, you are not going to rub out everything. जहां पे जरूरत है something like pure tall, अच्छा मैं tall रब करके मैं क्या लिखना चाहिए पहले अभी? pure purple, then pure dwarf रब करके pure white. What will I write here?
Capital P,
Capital P, capital P. What will I write here?
small p,
Small p, small p. आया समझ में? आया समझ में? And then now you will follow. Joanna, are you done? Complete till F1. F1 तक कंप्लीट करो फटाफट।
till F1.
हाँ F1 का फेनोटाइप तक कंप्लीट करो। ये पूरा रब कर दो, ये हैंडराइटिंग प्रैक्टिस नहीं कर रब कर दो। इसके चलते मुझे हैंडराइटिंग सिखाना पड़ा है, तो लेटर सिखाना पड़ा। Done now? हाँ, now leave that. Go now. What's your name? Multiplication नहीं है भाई। Crossing. मैं multiplication सिखाऊंगी, FGM सर क्या सिखाएंगे? That is called crossing. ठीक है? तुम जाओ, मैं तुमको सिखाऊंगी। जाओ, उधर जाके एक बार करोगे ना तो पूरा समझ में आ जाएगा। जाओ।
Ma'am, the fourth question is related to the third one.
हाँ, this type of questions you will get in the paper. चलो, now what I want to do, understand करो। Book रखो, book नहीं चाहिए। Take the pen only. Now, she has already done till what? F1 generation, where you already get plans of the F1 generation, no? And the plans are already hybrid purple. Now, gametes कौन से दो तरह के होंगे लिखो पहले। the gametes वाला तो two types of gametes, capital P एक होगा, दूसरा क्या होगा?
Small p.
Very good. लिखो। T white करो ना, T को white करो, small t हाँ, small p हाँ, ये क्या हो, कौन सा लेटर है तुम्हारे लिए? अरे नीचे देखो ना, अच्छी तरह से लिखो, देख। अरे wipe that small p, हाँ, clear लिखो। Very good. Now write the other side also. Capital P, small p. लिखो अभी, these are the two types of gametes, no? Small p. Now come to the next type. अभी crisscross wipe नहीं करना है, only wipe the letters wherever necessary. Now what will be the combination? 1 and 3. If 1 and 3 if one gamete number 1 and gamete number 3 undergoes fertilization, then what will be the genotype?
Capital P and small p.
नहीं, देखो 1 and 3 कौन सा है gamete 1 and 3? हाँ, तो क्या लिखना है अभी?
Capital P and capital.
Very good, लिखो। नहीं, position correct लिखो, नहीं तो you will be confused. हाँ, 1 and 4 अगर हो रहा है तो क्या लिखेंगे?
कैपिटल P स्मॉल p।
वेरी गुड। पहले तुम जेनोटाइप खत्म करो, उसके बाद फेनोटाइप लिखना। नाउ 2 and 3 डोमिनेंट पहले लिखो।
अच्छा डोमिनेंट पहले।
डोमिनेंट हमेशा पहले लिखना है। हाँ, और 2 and 4 तन्मय अभी तुम जाओ, राइट डाउन द फेनोटाइप। 4 का वो 4th जीनोटाइप थोड़ा अच्छी तरह से लिखो, स्मॉल p अच्छी तरह से लिखो। तन्मय will you be able to write down the phenotype there? हाँ, हो गया, you come. हाँ तन्मय are you sure? क्यों नहीं समझ में आया? अच्छा रेशियो बाद में देखेंगे, पहले you go and write down the phenotype. जाओ, are you sure? तन्मय के लिए मुझे मराठी सीखना पड़ेगा। हाँ मराठी में एक्सप्लेनेशन समझ में आ रहा है। जाओ कैपिटल P अगर जेनोटाइप है तो फेनोटाइप क्या होगा? कैपिटल P अगर जेनोटाइप है, 1 by 1, नॉट टू कंफ्यूज, एक के बाद एक लिखते जाओ। कैपिटल P अगर जेनोटाइप है, फेनोटाइप क्या होगा? पर्पल होगा कि व्हाइट होगा? पर्पल लिखो।
For the last question, two contrasting elements, it will be the genotype.
नहीं, oh I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Name two contrasting traits. I'm sorry, no? Traits. Traits.
Like tall and blonde.
Out of the 7, any you can write. Purple हो गया. Next, what will it be? The second one, capital P or small p? What will it be? What will it be? Capital P or small p अगर genotype है तो phenotype क्या होगा? You will not tell her anything. Put the mask on your face. Capital P and small p अगर genotype है, phenotype क्या होगा? हाँ तो कैपिटल P एक्सप्रेस करेगा ना, तो कैपिटल P का फेनोटाइप क्या है? पर्पल लिखो। When you love your अरे फ्लावर नहीं, अच्छा ठीक है चलेगा। थर्ड क्या लिखोगे? थर्ड का फेनोटाइप लिखो। वेरी गुड। फोर्थ का क्या लिखना है? वेरी गुड लिखो। Now can you write down the genotyping and the phenotypic ratio? चलो first of all phenotypic ratio देखो 4 plants में how many of them are purple? 3 and how many of them are white? तो वही तो लिखा था हमने 3:1। हाँ अब genotype देखो how many types of genotype are there? एक हो गया PP, एक हो गया कैपिटल P स्मॉल p, वहां पे देखो एक हो गया कैपिटल P लास्ट लाइन में देखो what you wrote just now. Capital P 1 type. Out of the 4, 1 is capital P or capital P small p, how many are there? 2 and small p how many are there? 1, तो वही तो लिखा है 1:2:1। आया समझ में? हाँ। Now Radhika, go and complete the Punnett square. फटाफट, one of two marks time. फटाफट। आया समझ में? Anybody has a doubt? If this is not understood when I do dihybrid cross the next day, you will be highly confused. ये चीज पूरा समझ में आ जाएगा, then dihybrid cross understanding is not a problem at all. क्योंकि dihybrid cross में 16 combinations रहेगा. It will be big. Now you are drawing only 4 combinations. Dihybrid में 16 रहेगा. and different types of combinations you should understand. So ये याद रखो, ये समझना बहुत जरूरी है. राधिका, number 2 जो second genotype जो लिखा है that's correct, उसको correct करो. Second number 2 को correct करो, small p लिखो वहाँ पे. Small p होगा ना?
3 will be capital P and 2 will be small p.
1 and 2 is gamete of same parent. तो एक small p हो गया, एक capital P हो गया. Radhika also belongs to the same school, no? Capital और small letter मतलब एक छोटा लिखो एक बड़ा लिखो. अरे small letter तो small letter लिखो राधिका. Small मतलब छोटा नहीं, lower case.
Three is capital P.
तुम लोग एक ही kindergarten में जाते थे. हाँ, दोनों एक ही kindergarten में जाते हैं. कौन से kindergarten में गए हो तुम लोग ये पहले बताओ. This should be small. These are gametes of the same parent, no? And this should be capital. This will be small. आया समझ में? करोगे एक मिनट कराओ. So those of you who have done this way, honest way, you know the same combinations has to be written. Let us take 1 more minute and finish with this question by the time she does this. Genotypic ratio of F2 generation. Are you sure about the answer?
Yes.
1:2 is to 1.
Yes.
Monohybrid cross क्या लिखना है?
Cross in which only one character is studied.
The crosses in which only one character is studied. ठीक है? Give one example of a character. अलावा इससे अलावा एक और character. Flower position अगर तुमने flower position लिखा, then this is axial and terminal. If you have taken chord, inflated or constricted. So now this can be variable answers for different students. कोई standard answer नहीं है. Whichever character you write based on that the traits you have. Okay. So next class we will learn about independent assortment.
मैम ने दिया था मुझे. मेरा भी
Limits of concept and one correction in the अरे फुल का है मेरे को इतना कम मार्क्स कैसे हिंदी में सोचता जा रहा. इतना अच्छा पेपर गया था, इतना बड़ा स्पेलिंग मिस्टेक्स निकाला था. मेरा तो भाई मात्रा में गलती निकाली.